was painting the Enjoy the Little Things in Life. I thought it would be a perfect little piece to do. I actually painted this on a little menu board, and I bought this from Michael's, but again, you're welcome to use any piece that you want. I love actually to see all the different surfaces that you guys find. It's really, really, I love people getting creative. So, and you know what, I didn't buy 2 menu boards, which is kind of crazy because usually I always buy 2, but I actually bought this again. It was just from a dollar store, so I'm gonna paint on this tonight just because I didn't have another menu board, but you're welcome to paint whatever you like. So someone actually painted my little coffee picture on the back. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was. But how cute would that be? So you could change, you know, turn it around. This is a great little menu board. I bought it from Michael's, and I think it was, you know, with a coupon, I think it was like $6 or $7. So a really great price. But she painted the little coffee. I don't know if you saw the coffee one that I designed a few years ago. But wouldn't that be cute? So cute. So as you can tell, I love contrast. I've been painting things on the black background, except for my new stone. I really wanted that nice bright pop of color in my garden. But for these ones, I like to base coat with the black, and I love the contrast that it gives. So the colors, like, they really pop when you put them on. So we're gonna be doing base coating and then just a little bit of dry brushing to bring out those colors. And then I picked red and pink for the flower. I love those colors. I love pink, so I had to do that. If you want to change the colors though, you could put a purple flower or whatever you like. So definitely feel free to get creative. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I just basically, all I did was oh, hi from Mexico. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. So what I did was, base coat it black. I put all-purpose sealer on this metal tin, okay, and then I just base coated it with black. I did put on 3 coats just to make it really nice, and the coverage is actually really good with the black, but I always give it a couple coats. And then I just traced it on with the white graphite. Okay, so nice and easy prep. Didn't have to do too much for tonight. Okay, so I thought what we'd do is we'd start with that little bird. Okay, so thank you. I thought we'd start with the little bird, and so we need a little bit of blue. And we're just going to do, we're going to use a couple brushes. Okay, so if you haven't used these brushes before, these are, again, my favorite brushes. We're using a couple of these. It's the 1/8 inch and the 1/4 inch. If you have something close to that, that would be great. Okay, they're called a lunar blender, and they have a rounded tip on them. I actually just did a little video on my YouTube channel, so if you haven't used that before, or if you haven't used the lunar blenders before, go to my YouTube channel, and that'll actually explain a little bit better even. So you can see up close, but I'll show you everything tonight, of course. Okay, so basically they have a rounded tip like a filbert. They have a bristle hair mixed with the soft hair, so it works really nice for dry brushing and creating whimsical strokes, which I absolutely love. I love being kind of free when I paint. So I use those 2 brushes, and we're gonna use a couple of filberts tonight, maybe a couple of rounds, but I'll go through everything in just a second. Okay, so if you wanna get out a little bit of bright blue, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same. I know how hard it is to get paints lately, because everyone is crafting in the world, which is a wonderful thing in itself. Okay, but we're going to be using bright blue, and we also have a little bit of white. Okay, so those 2 colors. We've also got a little bit of burnt orange. Okay, and then I think that's basically it. Maybe you might need a little bit of black, but if you want to get those 3 colors out. And while you're doing that, I'm going to turn the camera around, so close your eyes for just a second. So we're going to use a little bit of the bright blue. I'm going to push this up so everybody can see. I've got a little bit of white. I'm also going to get out a little bit of burnt orange. Okay, I love these little bluebirds. I have a couple feeders in my yard, so it's really kind of cool. Okay, so all right. Okay, so I'm actually going to use this 1/4 inch. So when I use them, it's a little bit different than actually a regular dry brush. And I know I say dry brush, but it's actually more of a wet dry brush, which I know, it doesn't make any sense. It's one of those Holly Hanley things, okay? So basically you're gonna wet the brush first, tap off the excess water, okay? Like so. Okay, so just wet it, tap off the excess water. Everybody got some paint out, ready to go? Okay, hi from Oklahoma, wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much for joining. Wonderful. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint that little bird. Okay, so I'm just gonna start with the top of the head right there, and I'm just basically tap off all the excess water that you have in your brush, and you're gonna take a little bit of that bright blue. Okay, so this is just with the bright blue, and I've got a little bit of white, and we're gonna use some burnt orange just right in the neck area there. So, but I'm just starting with a little bit of blue, and usually what I do is I tap off all the excess water. Okay, so this just gives, okay, when I wet it, it just basically softens up the bristles on your brush so you get a little bit softer hair, okay? And then I blend, and that basically gets rid of all the excess paint and evenly distributes it on your brush. Okay, and of course with your brush, the hairs go right up underneath the ferrule, okay, the metal part of the brush. So sometimes it's like a little reservoir. So sometimes when you lift up your brush, you'll get maybe a drip or two of water. So I always tap off the brush again. Okay, so and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with that little bird's head. Okay, so right in here, and I'm just gonna brush in a little bit of color. So it doesn't have to be too fancy. We're just brushing it in with little strokes, so it almost looks a little bit feathery. Okay, and I'm gonna come right underneath, right in here, and I'm gonna fill that in, basically, okay, and around that little eye, I'm gonna leave it like so. My dog Jagger loves to go out on the deck and bark at all the little birds, because there's some little birds that made a nest in the tree just right by our patio, and he loves to go outside and bark at them. He's quite the little rascal, our dog. Okay, so I've got his little head filled in, and again, I'm just using that 1/4 inch lunar blender. Okay, I wet the brush first, tap off all the excess water, okay, and then I'm just basically holding it on the ferrule, the metal part of the brush, so I have lots of control, and I'm resting my hand. Okay, so right in here, and every time that I pick up paint, I'm gonna blend off the excess, like so. And I'm gonna brush in, okay, his little feather. Right here, his wing, like this. Okay, so and I'm just gonna use actually my chisel just to kind of slide across and add some little feathers right in there, like this, okay? And then we've got that little tail. So I just extended mine on the bucket like this, and I'm just using the chisel of my brush just to add a few little feathers right in here. Okay, so right in here, and this is just with the bright blue. You can use true blue or any color that you have. Yes, a happy little bluebird, I love it. Okay, so right in here, again, I'm just sort of blending the paint that just evenly distributes it on my brush, gets rid of a little bit of the excess paint, okay? And I'm just filling in his little wing right here. Okay, so nice and bright. You can add maybe a little bit more color, and the paint will skip a little bit, which is great. Like this. Okay. So we've got that little bit right in here, and this is the same that I did. I actually painted this on a tray the first time that I did it. This is my little tray, but I had the watering can, and the little bird on my garden sign is done exactly the same way. So I'll just, so I've made this one really nice and bright. Okay, how's everybody doing? Did you all get some color out and everything? Okay. So I actually went back and I brightened a little bit on the top of the head just with a little bit more color. Okay, so you can see it skips a little bit. Yay, I'm so glad. Hi, Julie. Hi, Kathy. It's wonderful. And I wanted to tell you all I have some wonderful prizes tonight. Okay, so DecoArt is awesome, and they donated a prize pack. They donated another prize pack. So I always get my kids to go through all the comments, and everyone that shares, I go through all of those, and we pick. Well, actually, my kids pick. So I don't have anything to do with it. We load all the comments and all the shares, and then they go through and they pick some winners. So someone will win the DecoArt prize pack, which is awesome. I also have a couple brush packs from Princeton to give away, and I have a couple e-packets. So make sure that you comment throughout the night, and if you share, even better. I love that. So thank you so much for joining. Just some fun things. And I also have one more little giveaway on my page. I actually have a post that says, write in the funniest story that you can think of, you know, your mom or your grandma, or, you know, just, I've been reading some of the comments, and they're so funny. And you can win a free Zoom class with me. So if you want to type in a funny story, I would love to read it. Okay. So basically, hi Doris. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to have you all here. Okay, so basically, I filled in the feathers, okay, top of the head, and then I'm just gonna take a little tiny bit of white. Okay, so and I'm not gonna rinse my brush, I'm just gonna pull in that white, like so. Blend it together on your palette, like this, and I'm just going to brighten the top of his head. So this is just an easy little way to do a bird. There's not too much detail in him, and I love the way that the lunar actually gives you sort of a fur stroke or a feather stroke. So just if you press really nice and light, you'll almost get the suggestion of little feather strokes or fur strokes. Okay. Like so. So I just turned on my chisel right here, like this, just to sort of highlight the tail feathers. Okay, and you can make it as bright as you want. So usually what I do in all my paintings is I start with the darkest color. So that was the base, the bright blue. And then I just add nice highlights on top. So I always do like dry brushing. So I actually don't do a whole lot of floating anymore. It's mostly just base coat with the shadow color and then dry brush highlights on top, which I think is kind of fun and whimsical. Okay, so and I'm just gonna take a little bit more white, and I'm gonna add a few more little strokes right in here. Okay, feel free to add as much highlight as you want. You can add that like so. Okay, so there's my little bird. I've got the blue areas done, and then I'm just gonna rinse my brush. Okay, and you can see I love the black backgrounds or the dark backgrounds just because you can use that to your advantage. You can use it for a little bit of shadowing just at the bottom of his little head right there. Okay, you can see I left a little bit of black showing underneath this wing right here. So you can still see a little bit of the black background. So, and I love that. I love it. Gives it such a nice little shadow, and I think it gives it a lot of depth. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that burnt orange. Okay, so that's the next color. Oh, thanks so much, Sheila. That's wonderful. Okay, so don't forget to comment. You can win some great prizes. Okay, right in here, I'm just going to take a little bit of that burnt orange. Okay, such a nice orange. And this covers really well. It's really nice. Okay, so again, anytime that I use my lunar blender, I rinsed it out. Tap off the excess water, and you're just going to take a little bit of that burnt orange. Okay, blend back and forth. And we're going to add some more little strokes right in here. So you can see like what a difference it looks a little darker on the black background, of course, than on your palette. So we'll give it a couple layers just to make it a little bit more vibrant. And you can see I'm giving it a few little strokes. So those little strokes, they look like this. Okay, just so that you can see them, they look like a little fur stroke or a feather stroke. Okay, so if you've ever done little animals before, but it's kind of like a mix of a dry brush and a fur stroke. Okay, so we're just going to use that, and we're going to add little strokes right on his neck. Okay, and just sort of thread them into, we're going to add a little bit of white on the front there. Okay, like so. Look, he's already coming to life. Nice and quick. I love painting things that are nice and quick and come together. Right away. Okay, so there's that little bit of orange. Okay, and then I'm just gonna wipe my brush clean and I'm gonna add a little bit of white. Okay, so now the white's gonna be a little dirty. That's okay. It's got a little bit of orange in there, but it'll be a nice sort of gradual color change to that white on the front. Okay, and you can see when I do those strokes, make sure that, so this is just the 1/4 inch lunar blender that I'm using. Okay, so I want you to hold it on right on the ferrule, rest your hand as much as you can. Okay, and I'm just using a little bit of that white, and I didn't rinse my brush from the orange. Okay, so it's a little bit sort of muted white. Okay, and I start up off the surface. I'm gonna hit the surface in the middle of that stroke and lift. Okay, and you're gonna get lots of those little fur strokes like this. Almost looks like a little feather stroke. And don't worry if it gets a little blotchy, it's okay. Okay, and they're all sort of angled down towards his back tail feathers. Okay, and I'm just using my little chisel just to kind of poke in a few little feather marks right in there underneath the beak, like so. Okay, and then I'm gonna take a little bit more white. This time I'm gonna rinse my brush. Okay. Right here, I'm gonna take a little bit of white and I'm gonna blend off the excess. Again, tap off all the excess water. Okay, and you're gonna take that white and you're gonna brighten. So just add a few more little strokes of white right in here, like so. And look, he just comes to life. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you love it. Okay. Oh, okay, so right in here, like this. Okay, so there's his little bottom there. I added some white. Okay, and then if you want to, what the heck, if you want to add another little highlight just to make him a little brighter even, you sure can. Okay, and then you can take, just poke a little bit of color right on his beak there. Okay, so sometimes I like to try and get away with using the same brush for everything, but it would be better if you switched to a little round brush. Okay, it's kind of like when I golf, I only use one club. Okay, so you're gonna take a little bit of black. Make sure that you shake your paints up. So I am so blessed to have 2 children of my own. I have Taylor, who's 13, she just turned 13, and Chase, my son, who just turned 9. So he was telling me this morning that he loves me more than hockey. He loves me more than playing hockey. So I thought that was so sweet. Those little boys, they're just so sweet. Okay, so we're gonna take that little bit of black and a little touch of white. Okay, and I'm gonna stick my hand right in the paint. Does anyone else do that? Okay, so it's white, maybe just a little tiny touch of black, just so it's not so bright. Okay, and you're gonna take, I have a 0 round, but if you have a 10-0 liner or something nice and small, that'd be perfect. And then we're gonna bring this bird to life with one little dot. It's amazing. Okay, you add one little dot to his eye and there he goes. Okay, so, and then I'm just adding a little dash on his beak. Okay, so that was gray, a little touch of, or white with a little touch of black. Okay, so right in there, like this. I know, right? More than hockey. That's a pretty big compliment from Chase. Okay, so, we kind of joke about that. It's kind of funny. All right, so I'm gonna take the burnt orange and a little bit of black. Okay, so, and I'm gonna paint in his little feet. So you can use black, maybe a little bit of white so that they're a little bit more gray. Okay, and then I just painted in some little legs and some feet right in here. Okay, like so. I know, right? Time flies. Time flies. I was actually reading about the this lady in Mali who gave birth to 9 children. It's called a non-uplets? Non-uplet? I don't know. How do you say it? But I was like, wow, I could hardly handle 1 at a time, and she has 9. So it's pretty amazing. I hope she has a lot of help. Okay, so we've got those little legs in there. Okay, so there's our little bird. Like, not too bad, hey? What did you guys think? There's my Canadian accent coming out. Like this. Yes, my daughter is still singing, actually. She's taking voice lessons from this amazing voice instructor, and she has actually a song that she's going to, I think she's going to record here soon, so that'll be fun. I love listening to her sing, so I can't wait. All right, so there's our little bird. Okay, right in here, and then we're going to do the stem and the leaves. Okay, so just give me like a little comment. I know, I'm sorry, I'm so I'm a little bit quick when I paint, so I'm trying to go slow so everybody can catch up here. So just give me a little comment when you're ready to go on, and we'll start those little the leaves. I'll show you how to do those leaves. Okay, but the bird, all I did was I started with that 1/4" lunar blender. Okay, this is, again, ultimate favorite brush. Okay, so basically wet the brush first, tap off all the excess water, and then you're just gonna pick up, I started with some bright blue. Okay, so, and again, the lunar blender, it just has a rounded tip like a filbert, except it's different from a filbert because it has a bristle hair mixed in. So it's really nice. It gives you such a nice little spring. I use it for all my whimsical patterns and, you know, doing whimsical strokes like when I do snowmen and all that kind of stuff. So it's really quite fun. And I use it for doing little bears as well. Okay, so I just started with the bright blue. I added a little bit of white after just to give it a few more little strokes. Okay, and when you do those strokes, always follow the direction of how that little bird is going. Okay, so all the strokes basically are on sort of a bit of a diagonal pointing towards those tail feathers. Okay, so these ones were burnt orange. And then I added, I actually just wiped my brush kind of clean, so it was a little bit dirty with the burnt orange. And then I just added a little bit of white, okay? And then I brightened with even just a little bit more plain white. Okay, and definitely this is all recorded, so it actually stays on my Facebook page for as long as there'll be Facebook, I guess. So all you have to do is just search it on my page and it'll pop right up. So if you miss anything or you want to rewatch, you can definitely do that. Okay, so all right, perfect. Okay, so the next colors that we're going to be using are the evergreen and the matcha green. Okay, so, and if you don't have the matcha, you can use olive green, anything that has a nice vibrant color. I love, there's citron green that you can use, any of those greens. Okay, so evergreen, you could use Hauser dark green if you like. I'm not too picky. If you have something close, that's wonderful. Okay, like so. Okay, and if you have a round brush, and then just to paint the stem. So I'm just gonna use, well, I grabbed a 4 round. Okay, and again, I always forget, but never leave your brushes sitting in your water. Always rinse them out and then just leave them flat. Okay, like that, just because the handles on these brushes are wooden, so if you leave them in the water, basically the wood gets wet and it swells and then the paint cracks off, which they don't look quite as pretty, but they'll still work for sure. Okay, all right, so again, I see some of the comments coming up with the stories. I love it. I'm gonna take all the stories and we'll pick a winner or two for a free Zoom class, okay, of the funniest story, I guess, about your mom or your grandma or whoever, your auntie, anybody. Okay, so I'm just using my round brush. I've got a little bit of that evergreen, a little bit of matcha green. I always pick 2 really corresponding ones. Okay, again, I like to base coat with that shadow color. So I'm just gonna take that evergreen and I'm gonna paint in the stem, so nothing fancy. Okay, so like right in here. And I know my leaf is off to the side here, so I'm missing a little bit like that. Okay, but I'll do another leaf right here so that you can really see it. Okay. Like so, just really nice and loose, like this. Okay, and then you can switch brushes, and you can even just use your 1/4-inch lunar blender if you like, just to base coat your leaf. So whenever I base coat, it doesn't have to be fancy, but you know, I always like to pull those strokes in the direction that the leaf would grow. Okay, so here's your, well, this one's a little bit flipped. So, but imagine that your vein is right in the center and you're pulling towards the outside edge and down towards the tip. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna base coat this leaf. And then I turn my brush on the chisel. Okay, and if you're not sure what the chisel is, this is the flat of the brush. Okay, it's the widest part of the brush. And if you turn it on its side, this is called the chisel. So it's just where all the hairs come to a nice line. Okay, so I'm just gonna use that. And then this one is flipped, so I know this is a little awkward, but my strokes are gonna go the same exact way on the bottom. So it's supposed to look like this leaf has a flip in it. Okay, and then this one, again, is coming down like so. Okay, so I start right at the vein and I'm pulling down like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just like a very loose base coat. Okay, doesn't have to be pretty. Just to get some color in there, and if you want to use a flat brush to base coat this in, you sure can. Okay, so whatever makes you happy. Okay, and everybody has different ways of doing leaves and birds and all kinds of stuff. This is just my way. So if you wanted to, you know, change it, you sure could. Okay, like this. So there's the start of my leaves. Okay, and then of course I've got a couple little leaves poking out, and these ones are basically just right in here. Oh, thanks for joining us, Dawn. I'm glad you're here. Like this. Okay, so and then I'm gonna pull another leaf right in here just because my bucket is a little bit bigger, like so. Okay, so there's some of my leaves. They're not fancy. They're just a really quick little base coat, like so. This is like just the fastest way to base coat. Okay, right in here. And I'm gonna do one more really quick coat. Okay, so I'm starting from that vein and I'm pulling outwards like this. Okay, oops, this one's changed, so it's a little bit flipped right in here, like so. So that little stone that I actually just painted, my little hello friends, was actually a lady that I know texted me and said, you need a garden stone. So I thought, well, why not? That sounds good. Okay, so I love getting ideas. If you have some ideas and you want me to paint something, text me, or you know, you can message me on Facebook. That's great way to contact me. Okay, but if you have an idea for me, and I just love getting ideas. Isn't it great? I had a teacher actually when I first started painting. She would always get so mad at me because all my base coats had these big ridges in them. So like whenever I would do daisies or anything, like, so she would do those strokes and I would really load up my brush. So it would be super full, and then you get all these nice little ridges on the edge of your petals. So imagine that you're doing like a little daisy. And she would just get so upset with me because I love the ridges. I love all the texture. So it's kind of funny. I would just be so happy and she'd be like, no, you can't have any ridges. So it's kind of funny. So everybody does it differently. But this is just a quick way to base coat. It's just super quick. And if you have some ridges, that's cool too. Okay. All right. So usually what I do is I wait for this to dry, and then what I do is I add some little highlights. Okay, so we're gonna take that dark green, okay, so it's just some evergreen, and I'm gonna mix with a little bit of matcha green. Okay, so tap off all your excess water. Okay, hopefully my palette is still on camera. Just let me know if it isn't. Okay, but basically I'm just gonna mix those two colors together, so we're gonna build it up. We've got the darkest on the base, and then we're gonna add one more sort of in between, and then we're gonna go to that really nice bright. Okay, so again, rest your hand as much as you can, and I'm just pulling that color, and it's gonna skip. So I love dry brushing. It just makes me happy. Okay, so see how it skips? And again, it's not a typical dry brush, but it's one of those kind of wet dry brushes, I guess. It doesn't make sense, but some days things just don't make sense, but they work. Okay, so right in here, like so. So you can see how my brush strokes are all pulling towards that center, okay? And I just kind of turn my brush on my chisel for the end of the leaf, like this. And this one, again, it's kind of different. It's got a little bit of a curve to it, or a flip. So I'm doing the same thing, like that, just to give it a nice little highlight and let it skip. So all those strokes have a little bit of a diagonal to the vein in the leaf. And I know leaves are a little tricky. I always say though, if they're green, they'll look fine. Okay, right in here. Okay, so right in here, this leaf, I'm just going to add. So see how I'm up off the surface, and I'm hitting it in the center, and like this, I'm just pulling towards that tip of the leaf. Okay, so I've got a nice little highlight in the middle of the leaf. Okay, right in there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Like that, just pulling little strokes. And you know what? I love it when it gets kind of streaky like that. It just looks like there's little veins in the leaf. Okay, like that. And okay, so right in here, just taking that little bit of evergreen, a little bit of matcha green, mix those two together like so. Okay, and then I'm going to use my chisel to do that little stem right in here. Okay. So don't worry if your leaves aren't perfect, it's totally fine, okay? We're just adding some little highlights. Leaves take a little bit of practice, okay? But as long as, you know, just kind of get rid of the excess paint off your brush. I always blend before I go on to my piece. That just basically evenly distributes the paint on your brush and gets rid of all the excess, okay? And then basically I'm just, again, I do one side at a time, putting towards that tip, okay? Pull from that vein outwards on a little bit of an angle like that, and you have a nice little highlight on your leaf. Okay, this is how I do all my leaves. And the leaves that I did on my stepping stone over here, they're done the same way. Okay, so I base coat with that darker green, and then I just add a few little highlights like so. And once you get used to them, they go really nice and quick. Okay, but there's just with that first layer. Okay. Sorry. Okay, my video cut out for a second. Okay, so right in here, I'm just taking that matcha green, okay, and then I'm going to highlight one more time because it was so much fun. We're gonna do it all again, okay. Okay, so just basically taking that little bit of matcha green, and you're gonna give it another highlight. And this time, you know, you can even leave a little bit of space in between your strokes, and then it almost looks like your leaf has some ridges and some veins in it. Okay, and again, feel free if you want to get fancy and do some shading. This is all I do right here. Okay, like this. Got this pretty green, and look at how like the nice highlight, and then we've got that nice little shadow right down the center. Okay, so how's everybody doing? Okay, so right in here, I'm just giving, using that little bit of matcha green. You can use some olive green if you like. Okay, and then I'm just highlighting, again, the center of the leaf right in here. Okay, so I'm starting not quite at the stem, like that. And you can see I've rested my hand And I'm adding some nice little highlights. If you want to use your round brush for that little vein, you sure can. I just flipped my brush on the chisel, and I'm using the chisel because I got it handy. So, but you can see you got really nice little shadows, like so. Oh, I'm so glad. So glad you're enjoying this. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And this is wonderful. I love painting. I love painting with all of you. So I'm so glad we can do this. Okay, so right in here, we've got all these little nice little leaves. You can add as many as you want. If you don't want to do any more leaves, you don't have to. You don't have to poke these little ones in behind if you don't want. Okay. Sorry, my hand's probably in the way there, but okay. So there's our cute little bird with a few little leaves. Again, this is just a quick way to do leaves. If you want to shade and add all kinds of little details, you sure can. Sometimes, you know, I'll go back and I'll add a few little veins, you know, just with my liner brush, but it's totally up to you. So if you want to add some little veins, you sure could. I usually just leave them the way they are. I kind of like them like that. So sometimes you just gotta keep it simple, right? Okay. Like so. All right. How did everybody do with their leaves? Okay, so right in here, there's those leaves. This is just with the evergreen, a little bit of matcha. Thank you for sharing my video. Definitely there's lots of little prizes to win tonight for Mother's Day. I thought it'd be so nice. Again, like I said before, my kids go through and they pick the winners, which is awesome. So they actually really like doing it. And then I also have my little contest. So write in a little funny story and you can win a free Zoom class with me. So, okay. So there's those leaves. That's all I did. This is actually just little liner strokes with, I used my chalk pencil after, so I'll show you how I use that as well. Okay, so again, all I did was I base coated with the evergreen. So it's a nice dark green. I love it. I use it for all my leaves. And then I always pick sort of a really nice vibrant green to highlight with. Okay, so basically just base coat with that shadow color, and then I mixed the two greens, so evergreen and a little bit of matcha, and I did my first highlight. So again, whenever you pull that, it goes in towards that stem or the vein. Okay, so they're all sort of angled, all those strokes. Okay, that's the trick. You got to get them all angled the same way. Okay, and look at how the colors really pop on that black background, and especially when you varnish, it's pretty amazing. So when you varnish the piece, it just brings it to life. So, and then basically just use a little bit of the matcha green just by itself to really brighten up. Okay, so, and you can do that a couple times. So if you want it to be a little bit brighter, even just go ahead and do one more layer. So you can see how it really starts to pop when you add a little bit more color. Okay, like so. And this is all with the Lunar Blender, my favorite. I use it for everything. So much fun. Very whimsical and, and quick. Yes, it will definitely be available to watch later, Brenda. So if you miss anything tonight or you just want to watch it again, it'll stay on my page. So you can definitely watch it whenever you like. Okay, and I was gonna do for my next live, I was actually gonna do the little, I'm doing a little pot to match my new stone. So it was gonna have a little gnome on with a sunflower. I don't know if you guys are interested in that. But if you have some ideas of what you'd like my next little Facebook Live to be, I love to hear from you. Okay, so we've got the flower to do next. We're just cruising right along. I love it. It's just a quick little piece, so fun. Okay, so whenever you're done, just rinse out your brush, okay? And then get rid of all that paint. Sometimes the paint really sort of sticks by the ferrule there, so make sure that you get rid of that. Okay, rinse your brushes out in some brush cleaner after. But I thought we'd do, yes, okay, awesome. You guys are in for the pot. I thought it would be so cute. Okay, so for the flower, again, you're welcome to change the colors. I absolutely love Tuscan Red, and I use the Tuscan Red to paint the flower. Okay, so this is actually, and I really love deep pinks, so I use Tuscan Red to paint these little hydrangeas. Okay, so basically, just to make a really nice deep pink. And I know there's pinks that you can get, but I really love the color in here. And I use just a regular filbert brush. So if you have a 6 filbert or something close to that, that would be great, okay? And I like the 6 filbert just because, oh, that's wonderful, Shirley. I'll have an e-packet ready probably next week. I have to paint the pot yet, but it'll go quick now that I've got the idea sort of ready to go. But I thought a little pot would be so cute for the patio. I always have more room on the patio for more colorful things. Okay, so I'm using the 6 filbert just to paint this little flower. I know it's a little bigger than what I listed in the pattern. Okay, but basically just wet your brush first, tap off the excess, and I didn't use the lunar blenders just because I wanted a little bit softer look. Okay, so if you want to use the lunar blender, you sure can. Okay, but what I did was I had white and a little bit of Tuscan Red. Okay, so I'm gonna load my brush, and hopefully that you can see that on your, and I'm just gonna go right over top of my blending lines. They're nice and dry. Okay, but usually what I do is I load the brush, make sure that there's no water in the brush, okay? And then I tip it into the white. So that'll just give you a nice little highlight in your color. So you can see when I do the stroke, it looks like this. Okay, so this is just comprised of lots of those little flowers. I call them think-me-nots. Don't think too much when you do them. They are a pulled stroke, so you pull like this. Okay, so you're gonna pull, and then you pull like this into the center. Okay, and they're not perfect. You know, sometimes some of them are a little different. Some of them you can only see a few of the little strokes. Okay, but I'm pulling towards that center point. Okay, so imagine that there's like a little center, you're pulling towards that. Okay, so you set your brush down, you're gonna pull towards that middle, okay, and then sometimes I even just do like a little dab at the bottom, okay, and then just a whole bunch of those, okay, to fill in. So basically, again, I'm starting with the Tuscan Red and a little touch of white, okay, so this is, okay, I'm just pulling that little stroke, so I put my brush down and pull and lift, okay, it's not a dab. Okay, so you actually want to pull your brush to create those little flowers. Okay, and this is kind of fun because it's kind of like your practice layer. So don't sweat it. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect because this is the layer that's underneath. Okay, and you're going to add some of those little strokes and like isn't that beautiful? I love the pink on the black. Man, it looks so pretty. Okay, like this. So I'm pulling those little flowers, lots of little flowers. Some of them are just little strokes. Okay, and this is red and just a little touch of white because we're gonna get brighter. So this is your base, like so. Okay, so right in here. And you just don't be afraid to leave a little bit of the black showing here and there. Okay, so see how I'm holding my hand? I'm resting my hand as much as I can. You're gonna set the brush down flat or press on it and then lift. And every once in a while, you'll get a little tip of white to give it a nice little highlight. Okay, and you're gonna do lots of those 4 little strokes. And this is quite fun because, you can put this on a terracotta pot if you wanted, a nice little flower, even a little bird would look so cute. So, I mean, you don't have to, if you wanted to do this little pattern again, you could definitely put it on a little pot for your patio, or it would make a cute little gift. These flowers are quite fun to do. So, okay, so basically this is, again, your little practice layer. You're just doing lots of those little strokes, okay? I always tell people don't think too much, okay? Right in here. can have a glass of wine while you're painting. That way maybe it'd take your mind off things, okay? But you can see I'm just doing, sometimes I just do like little dabs. All the flowers don't have to be perfect because you wouldn't be able to see every little petal. Okay, right in here, like that. I really pick up lots of paint. I love it. I love little ridges. I love it when the color is really nice and vibrant. And I think the Tuscan red and the whites just make it so pretty, like just make it such a vibrant pink. Okay, so right in here. Okay, oh, tipped my hand in the pink again, or the red, whoops. Okay, and this is how I did all the little flowers or the hydrangeas on the welcome garden sign. Okay. So this is my base. I just used red and a tiny little bit of white. Okay, you don't want to get too bright the first layer. Okay, there's only a couple layers, don't worry. But I always say this is kind of like a practice layer. Okay, so basically just putting in those little strokes. Again, you can see some of that black showing so that you have a nice, there's some depth to your flower. Okay, like so. Okay. Right in here. I'm gonna fix my little leaf here because I put my hand in the leaf. Does anyone else do that while they're painting? Of course I've got a little, of course we could put a ladybug there. That'd be cute. All right. Yes, definitely. Don't think too much. Don't think too much. Okay, now, because again, I always say, because it was so much fun, we're gonna do it all again. We're gonna use the red and this time more white. Okay, so you can see I've picked up a lot more white on my brush. And this time I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna add some really nice, vibrant petals. So, okay, ugh, it's just so pretty on that. And it doesn't have to be, some of the strokes I'll actually put right on top of ones that I've done before. Or you can make a whole new flower, okay? But wow, look at how pretty that is. Okay, so lots of little strokes, just using my 6 filbert. This is Tuscan red and a little bit of, I've tipped into the white, so I've gotten a little brighter. I've picked up more white this time. And I'm gonna add more strokes. Don't you love this pink? Ugh. I guess I don't get out much. I love it so much. So pretty. Okay. Okay. So you can see I've just added more strokes. I didn't even wait for that first base to dry. I'm just adding more. Okay. And this time I'm picking up, you can see I'm picking up a little bit more white on my brush. Like this. I hope you guys are having fun. Okay, and if you've got some really big spots where the black is showing, definitely put a petal there because there shouldn't be like an overly amount of. And then maybe if you want to just pick up a little extra, really tip into the white. Like so. Okay. Yes, I love the contrast. I absolutely love black backgrounds. I'm kind of addicted right now. All my patterns have been sort of with the black. I even had a hard time doing that stepping stone because I'm so used to having the black background, but I think it turned out cute with the teal in the background. I don't know, you'll have to let me know what you think. Okay, so there's our little flower. You know, there's really not much to it. If you want to add more, you definitely can, but this is my little version of a hydrangea. I took even some yellow. So if you have a little bit of yellow, okay. Now this, you can take your round brush or your stylus and then put a few little dots of yellow here and there. Now you're gonna have to restrain yourself because sometimes you want to do all of them, but you can't. Don't do every little flower. Just a few little dots here and there. Okay, or it's gonna look strange because, you know, you can't see every little center of all of those little flowers. Okay, so just sort of here and there, you can add a few little touches of yellow. Okay, and that was with you can use any yellow. So if you got primary yellow or cad yellow or, you know, sunshine or whatever you've got, that'll be perfect. Okay, look at how pretty that is. So fun. Okay, so again, I just used my 6 filbert to do that. That was with the Tuscan Red. I used that for, and then just a tiny little tip into the white here and there for the first layer. And then I basically took Tuscan Red and then I tipped into lots of white and I added that nice little highlight layer on top. So, and don't worry, you know, you can throw in, there can be some little petals just sort of, you know, here and there. That's what makes it look a little bit more natural when you have, when it's not quite perfect. Nothing in nature is perfect. Okay, so you might have a couple little dabs here and there. Okay, all right, there's our pretty little flower. Okay, like so. I'm gonna try and fix my little leaf that I dotted my hand into the pink and then right onto the leaf. And then if you want to do, oh, tendrils are so much fun. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have seen me, I love to do tendrils. There's actually no tendrils on here, which is crazy. Okay, so all I do for tendrils, and again, don't leave your brushes in your water. I have to remind myself. Okay, so take some of that matcha green and you can add some water to it. So basically this is like when you use your liner brush, add some water. Okay, so it's really nice and thin. Okay, and then again, one of those things, don't think too much. This is something that I usually do like quick, like that. Okay, so you move your whole arm when you do little tendrils. So if you like those little tendrils, you can put them wherever you want. It's just that you make sure that you have, don't go over your flower because it's not dry yet. So there's another little tendril. Aren't they pretty? I can't believe I didn't put one on the original. Okay, so, but these ones I sort of try and move my whole arm and can add a few little veins here and there if you want, but just kind of play with it. Okay. All right, and then basically we have a little bit of lettering and I wanted to give you a few little tips on that. Okay, so I'll let you finish up your little flower here for just a second. And then with the lettering, I usually base coat, again, it's just same as with the flower. I'm actually using the same color and I just used a flat brush to base coat with. Okay, so you can use whatever brush that will fit in the sort of the biggest brush for an area. So I've got a 6 shader, or you can use a 4. I'm not sure what I put in the instructions. Okay, every time I paint, it's always a little different, which is kind of nice. So you don't have to do things exactly the same. Okay, but basically, whenever you're doing lettering, I want to give you a couple little tips. Okay, make sure that you rest your hand as much as you can. Okay, so right on a nice sturdy surface, like so. Rest your hand, hold your brush right on the ferrule, the metal part of the brush, so you have lots of control. Okay, and I'm starting right on the chisel of the brush, and I'm gonna slide around and then lift. Okay, so, and whenever you're doing lettering, make sure that you're always pulling down. Okay, so never push up with your brush. And so a lot of times letters will take a few strokes to do them. Okay, so you can see I'm starting right here. I started on the chisel, I'm using the flat to come down, and then I'm ending on the chisel. Okay, and then same thing, right on the bottom here, I'm gonna press on my brush to fill that in. Okay, and this is actually with a 6 shader. It's called a flat shader. Okay, doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Okay, but that's the thicker part of the letter. Okay, so I'm always pulling down, and this is with Tuscan Red, and I know it doesn't cover exactly perfect, but we don't need it to. Okay, it's all good. And I'm gonna leave this little skinny part of the letter. Okay, like this. here. Okay, so just filling in all of those little strokes. And the letters are done, you know, exactly the same. And the rest I just sort of did with a liner brush. Okay, but you can see with the O, I started right at the bottom and I'm gonna pull basically until I can't go up anymore. Like this. Okay, and then the Y. So, and that my little bucket here wasn't quite as tall as the menu board. So I just left off in life. So I thought, enjoy the little things. That's, I mean, that works too. So right in here, like so. Okay, and then just to finish off, you can use your round brush and finish off those little strokes. Okay, so, and I always love to use like a big round. They always have a nice tip on them, so you can get a really skinny stroke and then a thicker one. Okay, like this. So you can add little commas or whatever you want. Okay, but anytime that I'm using my round brush, I always use a nice big one. This one's a 4. So whatever you have that you love to use, definitely go ahead. Okay, and then we've got this cute little heart right here. Like so. All right, so I've just basically used my round brush just to connect some of those little strokes. Oh, thanks so much, Diane. I love reading the comments. You guys are awesome. Okay, so that was basically, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll come back, and again, Tuscan Red is pretty transparent. I know some people, they put in some gray for a first base color, and I do that sometimes, but this I didn't worry too much about because I'm gonna dry brush highlights on top. So I'm just gonna give a couple little spots a little bit more color right in here. Okay, like so. Okay, so always pulling down as much as you can. Rest your hand. I'm just resting it on my pinky there, like this. Okay, and you're gonna paint in all of those little letters. Okay, right in there. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, and then I basically just used my liner brush to paint in the other lettering. Okay, so in life, this one was just with some yellow. Okay, right in there. So you can use any color yellow that you like. I like the primary yellow, and even some white looks really pretty. Okay, and Things was Mermaid Tail, and I know some of you didn't have that color. It's basically just a really nice teal. You can use, again, any color that you have that you love. Definitely go ahead and use that. Okay, so I'm just gonna switch to my smaller liner brush. I'm gonna let this dry for a second. Okay, and I'm gonna paint in my lettering here. Okay, and again, if I'm going a little bit too fast, this is actually recorded, so it'll stay on my page, and you can come back and watch anything that you might have missed. Okay, okay, right in here. So I'm just painting this in. This is with my liner, and well, actually it's a 0 round, so it's pretty close. Okay, again, always basically pull down with your brush, like so. My puppy came to visit me, so if you hear any strange noises, that's him. Like this. Okay, so the little things. And then I'm going to take, isn't it happy? Can't you just see a flower in there? I can't wait to plant something in there. All right, now, I can't remember for the lettering on that one. Trying to look. Okay, so we've got the little lettering. Okay, it's just with white, and then I pulled in a little bit of green. Okay, so basically same thing. Again, this one is a little thicker, so I pressed on my brush a little bit more. Okay, so rest your hand. And I actually don't add any water to my brush when I'm painting this, because I really like the color to be nice and vibrant. Okay, so, and it's okay if it's a little thicker. Right in here. Oh, that's funny. I know. Yes, we all blame our dog. Come on. Yes, my dog snores too. He's so cute. Okay, so there's little, this is just with white. So I'm just taking white. I'm using a 0 round, one of my favorite brushes. It's quite versatile to use for different things. Okay, so right in here, like this. We've got the E here, okay, like so. One time I designed a piece and I actually spelt one of the words wrong. And I actually put it on the pattern. That was a oops. Darn it, anyway, I had to fix that. Does anyone else do things like that? The other day I forgot to put the cup underneath the coffee maker. So I don't know if anybody else has days like that, but I seem to have those more and more. Okay. Life gets a little crazy around our house with trying to get to all the activities and run kids and, you know, paint and trying to design things. Okay. So we've got those 2 little hearts, and then things I did with mermaid tail. Okay, so I'll let that dry for a second, and I'm just gonna grab some some mermaid tail. Okay, like so. Okay, and again, you can use actually a little bit bigger round. So if you have a 3 round or a 2, okay, like this. I'm just using the mermaid tail. So start, and you can do this anytime that you're ready. So if I'm going a little bit too fast, just paint at your leisure. Like so, right in here. So we've got things, and I'm just using, I love the mermaid tail. It's such a pretty color. DecoArt has like amazing stuff, and it's so wonderful. They donated a prize pack, so they're gonna send you out something to the winner. Okay. All right, so we've got things. Like so. Okay, and again, if you have some ideas for me, let me know. I always love to get ideas. Okay, of next projects, I'm actually, so I'm gonna work on the little pot that matches the Hello Friends stone, and I'll show you all again here when I end. But I have a little camper on the go. I don't know, does anyone go camping? Camping is big in Saskatchewan, here where I live. So I thought, and my mom really wants a sign, a camping sign. So I have a really cute idea for a cute little camper, and I know there's a few out there, but you know, everybody does it differently, so I thought it would be fun. Fun to put my own little spin on it. Okay, all right, so we've got our lettering right in here. Now, if you don't have mermaid tail, again, you can use any color that you have. Or if you wanted to mix, let me see here. I'm trying to find one that's comparable. You could use just, you know, like antique teal would be nice. You could mix if you want. You can mix a blue and a green. Okay, so pretty. Like that. Laguna is really pretty too. It's a little lighter, but it's one of my favorite colors. So nice. Okay, like this. All right. So we've got our lettering in there, and now we're going to add some of those whimsical little highlights. So I always like to pull the colors together. So you can see with the mermaid tail on here, I actually took some of the matcha green and I pulled some matcha green in there. Okay, so, and then this one, I've got a little bit of green in the bottom. So let me show you that. Now, I don't know, I love lime green. It's so pretty. So all I did was I just basically took a little bit of that lime green and I pulled a little bit for an accent at the bottom of the letter. Okay, and that's why I like to do the letters a little bit thicker so I can do all this fun stuff at the bottom and the tops just to highlight. Okay, so right at the bottoms here, I'm adding a little bit of that nice lime green. Ugh, it's so pretty, and just pops on the black. Okay, so, and then what the heck, while we have that on our brush, you can also add a little accent to the mermaid tail. Oh, I love it. I love the green on the teal. It's just so pretty. Okay, so you can add a little accent, just a little bit of color on your brush. Don't think too much, just kind of put it wherever you want. Okay, I did it mostly, well, I guess on the bottom on this one, but this one has it at the top. So anything goes. Anything goes. I love it. Okay, so you can add a little accent there. Right here. Okay, and again, I was telling some of you who joined late that one of the ladies, and I'm sorry, I forget who it was that posted, but they actually put my coffee sign. I have a little coffee cup, and it says coffee right here, and it's got some really cool little swirls. That looks so cute. She painted on the back of this menu sign so she can turn it around, which looked so adorable. Okay, if you're listening or you're here tonight, please post that again. It was so cute. Okay, or you can definitely paint whatever you want on the back, or you could put kitchen's closed. Get your own. That's what I need. I need a kitchen's closed sign. My kids are always hungry. Okay, so I'm just taking a little touch of evergreen and a little bit at the bottom just to add a little bit more of that shadowing. Okay, and then the mermaid tail needs, of course, a highlight. So we're just going to take mermaid tail in white. And I'm basically just pulling a little bit of that mermaid tail in white from the tops of each letter. Okay, or whatever color that you base coated that lettering with, just add a little touch of white. And doesn't it make it pop? Ugh, I love it. Okay, so right in here. So pretty, don't think too much, just the tops of all of those little letters really makes it come to life. Okay, again, I always hold my brush right on the ferrule and rest my hand as much as I can. That's why, you know, I have lots of control on my brush. Okay, and these are the Princeton brushes that I'm using. Okay, like this. This is a 2 round. So if you have, or if you like to use a smaller one or a larger, whatever works for you. Okay, like this. And then if you want to add another little swirl, what the heck, because I have room. What? Ugh, so much fun. Okay, be loose and airy and don't think too much. That's the trick. Okay, so right in here, there's my little things. How fun is that? Okay, and then we're gonna add some nice little highlights. So your Enjoy lettering, or my Enjoy lettering, is nice and dry now. Okay, with the Life lettering, all I did was I used my flat brush and I base coated with the yellow. So just one little stroke. I didn't do anything fancy on here. Okay, so no problem at all. Okay, now with the Enjoy, I use my Lunar Blender. Oh, thanks. I'm so glad. Yes. Thank you so much for watching. I just love it. Okay, so Enjoy. We're gonna add a nice little highlight, and I used my Lunar Blender for that. Now, I don't know, the 1/4 inch is just a little bit big for that, so you might want to use your little 1/8 inch. Let's try that one out. Okay, so again, I always wet my brush or sort of rinse it, and that just basically softens up the bristles just a little bit, so it's not quite so scratchy. Okay, so basically tap off all the excess water, and then I'm going to take red and a little bit of white, and I'm going to blend back and forth, and I see I picked up some mermaid tail, so whatever works. It's like Bob Ross says, those happy little accidents, you never know, maybe you'll like them. Okay, but basically red and a little touch of white, because you want a really deep pink. This is going to be your first highlight, and all I do is I just do a little dash like this. So you pull from the top of the letter and then lift off. Okay, so, and you might be able to fit your 1/4 inch in there, but it's going to be a little tricky. Okay, so just pulling from the top there, We're going to add nice little highlight from the tops of those letters. Okay, like so, like this. Okay, so this is just Tuscan red and a tiny little bit of white, and it just makes this beautiful deep pink. It's like my favorite color now. And I know there's so many different colors, but this, I just love the Tuscan red. It's so pretty. Okay, and add a little highlight to your little hearts. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, and then the O, we're gonna add a nice little highlight. So see how I'm really filling in a lot and then just sort of lifting. Okay, so when it's not your typical dry brush, it's just more of like a whimsical stroke. I start at the top and then just sort of pull and lift like this. So just, you know, have fun. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Okay, so press and lift, press and lift. Okay, and you can add some little ends there if you want, like this. Okay. All right, so there's the first highlight. Okay, so like I said before, I always base coat with the shadow color, and then I add highlights. So I just kind of stroke on highlights on top, and we're gonna add one more highlight, maybe two. Okay, right in here. Look at how pretty that looks already. Okay, and then I'm not even gonna rinse my brush. I'm gonna take some white and I'm gonna do it all again. Okay, so just see how I'm rinsing or getting rid of the excess, and you're gonna add a nice little dash. This one's not gonna cover quite as much area. Okay, so you can see how I'm just allowing it to skip, like so. Okay. Right in here, and I'm not sure if you guys have visited, I have a YouTube channel. If you like the little videos, please subscribe. Love that. I have more coming, and if you have, I painted these cute little birdhouse stakes, garden stakes, and they actually kind of match the color of my new stones, so I'm gonna put them beside. And I was gonna do a video for those too. They're so much fun and really quick. Okay. So you can see, not all my strokes are right in the perfect spot, but okay, now I'm gonna do it one more time. I can't help myself. So right, one more little dash with more white. Okay, I know, I'm silly, but all right, so right in here, just adding that nice little highlight. My YouTube channel is just Painting with Holly Hanley, like this. Okay. And then, because so I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a tiny little bit of yellow on the lettering, and it just gives it such a nice warm glow. Right in here, oh, thank you so much, Anne. Okay, I actually, right in here is I took a little bit of white and some yellow. Okay. Now, please forgive me if it's not exactly like my instructions. Sometimes when I paint it again, I add things or I change it a little bit, but I took yellow and a little bit of white, okay, and I added a nice little highlight. So I just did, oh, that looks so pretty and warm. I love yellow. It's just such a pretty color. Okay, so I used, so this is primary yellow and white. So if you have cad yellow, you can, you know, use that, but like, oh, isn't that pretty? It just looks like the sun is shining on it. So nice. Okay, so right on the top right here, like this. Okay, you know when something comes together, it just makes you happy. Love it. Okay, so right in here, like this. Okay, so, and you can add that little bit of yellow on the rest of the letters too if you want. Just take that primary yellow and a little touch of white, like so, and just, you know, touch on the tops of the letters. It just warms it up and gives it a nice little glow, like this. What the heck? So pretty. Tops in here. Again, you might want to switch to your round brush Sometimes I try and fit my brush in all the areas when I should switch. Okay, but basically just take your round brush and add a little dash of yellow at the top there. Like, what a difference. I know, I don't know if you can see this really well on the camera, but I just love it. So pretty. Okay, like this. And then if you want to just take your round brush and play around, you sure can, just to sort of strengthen. Okay, look at how pretty. Oh, and fun. So fun. Okay, so I know I probably went a little bit quick on that lettering, I'm sorry. But basically I base coated that Enjoy lettering with Tuscan Red. Love that color. And then I added just a little bit of white and I dry brushed a little highlight with the 1/8 inch Lunar Blender. Okay, so just pulling, you cover the most area with that first highlight, and then each highlight gets a little smaller, so you have a nice graduated color from nice and dark to really nice pop up of light. Okay. And then, so I just added the white, and then I used yellow and white. So it just adds that nice little sunshine touch to the lettering. Okay, this is with my liner brush, and I used the liner and my round brush to do those lettering. And you can pick any color that you want. So doesn't matter what colors that you, I love to see everybody getting creative. And then to finish off the design, I actually used a chalk pencil. So this is a General's pastel chalk. Now this one, I actually really love it. I use it for all the things, but it does smear, so you have to spray varnish it after. And I know some people aren't a big fan of sprays. If you can go outside and spray it, that works even better. But now when I use my chalk pencil, I actually wet the pencil first. So, and this makes it, it sort of fixes it a little bit better, and it also gives you such a vibrant color. Like, it's just amazing compared to, so if you wet it just a little bit, it gives you a little bit brighter color like this, and you can add any little swirls and designs that you want. So it's really quite fun, and I thought it really added a nice little touch to the design. So you can add little swirls, you can color them in, doesn't have to be exact, and you can even fix up your lettering here and there. So, you know, if there's a little spot that was maybe a little fuzzy, this works perfect. So you can add that wherever you like. You can add some little musical notes. You know, feel free to get creative like this. Okay. You can just play around and add, you know, add that little bit of chalk pencil design, and then just spray varnish it. So you can actually, yes, you can definitely use white paint. Just add a little bit of water to it so that when you're using, just like when you're using your liner brush, so that it flows off your brush really quite easily. Now, if you don't have a chalk pencil, you can actually use a white pencil crayon. I've used that before. It doesn't smear, which is nice. I find that it's maybe not quite as vibrant as the chalk pencil, but it still works great too. Okay, so any of those you can definitely use for that. And you can just feel free to get creative, you know, add little swirls or whatever you want, just to finish off your design. But again, you need to spray varnish that after you're done. So, and then we've got some little leaves. You can add your little, you know, if you want to accent your little, wherever you want, okay? And then, of course, you can sign your name with your chalk pencil. And I always like to put the year so that you know when you painted it, like that. Because, you know, all my kids, they're going to be fighting over my pieces. When I'm gone, they're going to be, no, you take it. No, you take it. I always laugh at that. Okay, so that's the project. I really hope you enjoyed it tonight. Again, don't forget to comment and share my post. I hope you had fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.